Dear YouTube, the past few months have been quite eventful. Uh, the start of the year began with a family member's health issues, which was scary and stressful, but it also provided a sort of silver lining for my extended time at home, and it gave me a sense of purpose to help them with going to appointments and procedures. And again, thankfully, those issues have resolved, and we're really grateful. And as that sort of family personal matter was waning, my job traction started picking up, and so that was also good timing and exciting. And I ended up landing a job, which brought me back to California. So I've moved back to California. I'm in a new city where I don't know anyone, which is scary and challenging. But I'm also super excited. When I first heard the news of this new job, of course I was, so happy that I could finally see the light at the end of the tunnel of this difficult year of job searching. But I was also very, scared and overwhelmed by all the logistics of moving, and of course this new city, thinking about how to make new friends and build a new life and community here. I'm still very much working on those things, but it's going good. In my last few weeks in Michigan, I connected with some old friends, which was really nice. They're just so lovely. And we spent those last few weeks doing a lot of fun things, like going to the beach or the arcade, or just hanging out and watching movies. And those last few weeks in Michigan were maybe some of the best I've ever had in my hometown, and I'm really grateful for that time there. And now that I'm here, I'm making a kind of concerted effort to keep in touch with those old friends. This year of job search was pretty lonely and isolating at times, and so that has only underscored and highlighted the importance of maintaining these sorts of connections and friendships. I've been really enjoying thinking about my environment and sort of my furnishing a bit more, kind of trying to slowly curate nicer items, going to thrift stores and estate sales to try to discover those hidden gems. And I'm trying to do so slowly. So I still don't have a couch, I still don't have, a bookcase, and so a lot of my things are still in piles, but I think it's important to take my time with it. I also had a storage locker of my belongings here in California. And so that's been fun to sort of reassess and rediscover all the knickknacks and things that I've kept over the years. And so a lot of the footage in this video you'll see is going to be me bringing those items in and unpacking them. I also went to my local IKEA. It's been many years since I've been to one, and so I indulged in testing out different chairs, and of course I had the Swedish meatballs. I'm really eyeing this Lille Sauter couch. It's this bright yellow couch with sort of curved edges. I really like its color and shape, but I am a little worried about sort of the longevity of having such a bright couch. My apartment entrance is really tight, and so it does feel like IKEA is the only way to go, with sort of the modularity and the ability to sort of build it inside. But I'm still shopping around, keeping my eye out for other options. I did buy 2 cabinets from IKEA, the Kronorem. You can see the beginning of me building them here, and I just stuck them in my closet to hold more clothes, and specifically my t-shirts and shorts. Just before I left for California, I was getting into watercolors. I bought a nice set of brushes from this YouTuber, Eric Lin from Cafe Watercolor. I've also been carrying around these cheap watercolor paints for far too long. And I'm finally at a point with my relationship to money and art making where I finally understand that supplies are meant to be used. And so no more scarcity mindset, and I'm really working on getting rid of these older supplies so that I can buy some newer, nicer stuff. Here you can see me painting a heron. These cheapo paints are not very pigmented, but we're making do. What's worse than the paints is the really cheap paper I'm using. This paper can't really hold very much water, which makes painting even washes really difficult. I was lazy to tape down the paper because it's just practice, but I know this paper is going to buckle and warp a lot. In all honesty, I should just commit to buying better materials, as part of learning how to paint is learning how the paint and the paper interact and behave. And I understand that the tools don't make the artist, but perhaps I'm doing myself a disservice. In any case, I still think there's still things I can learn from using these cheaper supplies. I can learn about, layering colors and sort of different strokes for different kind of mark qualities. And so I'm committed to using up these older materials. I'm painting a heron because I just really love them, and they've grown somewhat to symbolize times of respite for me. I used to go on many long walks on a biking path that was next to a river, and I would see a lot of herons there. And then of course Studio Ghibli came out with the movie The Boy and the Heron, which only intensified and deepened my love for herons. I really love the sort of grotesque and body horror of that character in the movie. And in general, the movie is an interesting sort of meditation on legacy and different themes that sort of the oeuvre or the entirety of the Ghibli films interact and speak to. It's a really lovely kind of swan song from Miyazaki. Herons are also really fun to draw. The curves of the neck make an almost figure eight, and the different feather textures. There's the wispy plumes on the chest and the back, and the more typical looking feathers that make up their wings. And of course the iconic blue head plumage that make them look like kind of slicked back greaser hairstyles. Most recently I've been having sort of a recurring, not dream, but like a thing that I think about when I wake up. For most of my life I've had these sorts of recurring or sort of fixations as part of my nighttime routine. Like for years I would think about silly, simple things like, what kind of superhero I would be or what kind of ninja I would be. And then of course typical things like thinking about a crush and kind of replaying those fantasies and ideas. But more recently, these sorts of habitual thoughts have been spilling over into my morning routine as well. And so these days when I wake up, I often think about heron wings sprouting out of my back. And so they're kind of gray and kind of wispy and almost dirty looking. They're not like the pristine, majestic angel wings. And so these wings, they sprout out of my back, and they, flap and help me muster the will to get out of bed. They give me that extra lift and buoyancy, I guess, that I need to rest myself out of slumber. For once I have a goal with my art making. Usually I'm just chasing skills like, drawing confident anatomy or drawing in perspective really well. But right now, I'm just trying to make some nice homemade gifts for my friends. Postcards that I can send to those friends in Michigan, but also my many friends all over the world, like in Denver and Chicago and Korea and Germany. Even people who are just a few hours away in other parts of California. I also want to write these friends some nice letters. So I've been practicing my cursive, and I wrote and sent my first batch of letters this past week. And I'm just really excited to begin this letter writing practice. In general, I also want to write letters to increase the frequency of contact with these friends. As I sort of establish my new community here, I don't want to forget or neglect these friendships that have supported me so much through the years. And admittedly, I've not been the best at keeping up with all my old friendships, and so I want to be better. And conversely, I also don't want to be forgotten myself. And so while I don't expect like handwritten letters or handmade postcards in return, I know these friends will at least reply with like an email or a text at minimum. And that's, perfect for me. That the whole point is to speak and be in communication with these friendships more. I've been giving some thought as to what makes an enduring friendship with me. I think it boils down to two sort of critical factors or qualities. I think all my friends are actively working on themselves, actively working on a skill or a hobby or doing some internal work. And that itself, earns my deepest admiration. And I think self-improvement is also sort of a strong motivating driver for me in my life, and so it's something that I value seeing in the people around me. The sort of other quality of all my friends is a little more abstract. I need my friends to quote-unquote see me, which again is kind of vibes-based. But I think to unpack it, I think what it means is I need there to be space for like nuance and reading between the lines, and as a person I can be very critical of myself. I can overthink, I can overanalyze, and I think my friends are able to kind of hold space for all of that complication and complexity, and they do so without like any suspicion. They do so generously, and they embrace sort of all of that fullness. They don't try to like boil me down or kind of dismiss all of the sort of texture and difficulty I might be having or thinking about. And even when they do sort of ask me to zoom out and see that the issue or the concept is not so complex, I feel like it comes from a place of understanding me and my tendencies, rather than diminishing me. There are of course a lot of kind of unique and specific parts of each of my friendships. All friendships don't have to do everything. Each friendship offers something unique to you. But I just wanted to reflect a little bit on sort of the common thread and the commonality I'm seeing in all my friendships. And of course I understand that is speaking to like my personal needs and desires. It reflects, you know, my values, the ways I like to be cared for, and yeah, so I invite you to think about that sort of thing for yourself. What do all your friends have in common? Making new friends in this city has been slow going. Admittedly, I'm feeling impatient. You know, I just want to fast forward to the point where I'm living a life full of many deep friendships and, you know, a lot of community. But I know it'll come with time, and it just needs time, and I need to put myself out there a little more as well. I've been attending a weekly figure drawing class. That's been really fun. It's been really nice to get into sort of a habitual practice. And in those classes, I've been making an effort to speak to the people around me. But it's a little difficult because there's only 5-minute breaks between the class and, you know, short windows before and after class. But I'm doing my best to make use of those little stints of time, and yeah, I see some friendships beginning to germinate. I don't have any footage of the class as there's the nude model, but maybe next week I'll record some footage of my paper and be mindful to keep it PG with my drawing. It feels really good to be committed to attending these classes and establishing a routine that supports and works with my life. Every week I walk to this class, and that gives me some exercise, and then on the way home I swing by the grocery store, and it just all fits so nice and neat. I bring a thrifted backpack that I don't mind dirtying with charcoal or pastels, and this backpack easily fits a tote that I can then use for the groceries on the walk home. And at the grocery store I usually buy a little snack for the rest of the walk. And yeah, in general, on Wednesday nights I just feel so fulfilled, and but also like spent creatively, physically, in sort of the best way. So that's all for me for now. Yours, Benny. Am I out of focus?